It's not that kind of video. If you happen to click this video, I can assume you have plenty of things to say about Rooster Teeth's animated series RWBY, and like you, I've been contemplating on when would ever be a good time to discuss the issues I've had with the direction of this show. One of those issues being the lead character Yang Xiaolong and her comparison to the rest of the team. I plan on digging deep into exploring one of my favorite RWBY characters in my first ever character analysis video. But let me impeach this society lesson, which I believe is important. When you publish a piece of work, you invite it into a special doorway called criticism. And inside the world of criticism, people are more than welcome to give their opinions on how they feel about the pieces of work, whether it be negative or positive. And to be honest, I plan to make this video more optimistic with hopes of connecting with the fans of Yang Xiaolong and enlighten those who may be wondering, what happened to her? Was there ever a moment where Yang was popular? As I take a dive into this video, I hope to answer some of those questions. For starters, I am personally speaking as a Yang fan, and like anyone else, I myself was prepared to see what whimsical ways Monty Miles Luna, and Carrie Shawkers would do for her character. Yang has gone through a roller coaster as far as my stance on her character. At first, I had high hopes to see Yang as a pillar for Team RWBY to lean on, but it's become evident that that is not the case. Figuring out the pros and cons to Yang's overall character has significant moments that fans remember quite well. The video discusses those pros and cons and a division of uprising and downfalls for the blonde heroine. This is the rise and fall of Yang Xiaolong. As a roller coaster awaits at the beginning of the rails, Yang's character starts off from RWBY Volume 1, and I believe the first pro to her character is her visual representation. Compared to her other teammates of Team RWBY, Yang's design is the most striking. It has so many layers of personality with each individual piece. She looks bright, it has that nice soft mixture of cowgirl and aviator style to it, both styles that represent a unique sense of freedom and adventure. To me, any series that develops fictional characters needs to have their own identity in place, especially if they're considered important to the story. The astonishing design choice for Team RWBY Volume 1 told you a lot about the characters just from a glance. RWBY's docile, shy demeanor sets an ominous Red Riding Hood mood. Weiss's astute high class showcases something like a Disney princess, its sophisticated aesthetic. Blake's mysterious, quiet nature represents secrets being withheld and dark stories to unfold. And Yang's bright, fun, and feistiness represents the summer season, filled with energetic composure. Taking a glance at these characters, these labels surprisingly fit the narrative of their designs well, so I must commend Lee for such a great job she's done with the characters. I'll give it to Yang as a rise in her character for a fascinating design choice, but in order to keep the rise steady, I can't just like Yang from how she looks. The soul of the character is the most important aspect. The soul meaning her relationships, personal beliefs, and interpersonal struggles, so let's go over what we know.
Oh, I can't believe my baby sister's going to Beacon with me. This is the best day ever!
Please stop.
But I'm so proud of you!
Yang is Ruby Rose's biological older sister, and a social butterfly to boot. She's quick to make friends, break the ice between strangers, and practically beat everyone's big sister in a way. In a world of fighting monsters, Yang's personality is uplifting and definitely supportive to whom she may be around. But I must admit, the big sister role that many characters play in fiction can be chalked up to be pretty predictable and common. Since Yang at a surface level is understood by all, we need to figure out what purely brings her to the story of RWBY. The core concept of RWBY is that it is set in a fictional world of Remnant, where young people train to become warriors called huntsmen and huntresses, to protect their world from monsters called Grimm. This is where the most important part comes into defining our yellow dragon. What is Yang's purpose for becoming a huntress? Now I'm sure it's due to the fact that we are up to Volume 8 of RWBY, the answer many may give is mixed into obvious assumptions based on our character dynamic. Most often people might say, to look out for our little sister RWBY, but that isn't the right answer.
Tell me, Yang, why did you choose this line of work?
Huh? Well, to fight monsters and save...
No, that is what you do. I want to know why you do it. The honest reason as to why you want to be a huntress.
The honest reason? I'm a thrill seeker. I want to travel around the world and get wrapped up in as many crazy adventures as I can. And if I help people along the way, then that's even better. It's a win-win, you know?
I see.
From what we understand now of Yang's purpose for becoming a huntress, that purpose has to stick with her throughout this series to establish her difference from Team RWBY. Yang isn't doing it to be a heroine. She's doing it for her enjoyment and curiosity of the world. It appears to be quite a selfish reason if you look at it closely. Sure, she said helping people was a win-win, but if someone were to tell Yang, I have a group of huntsmen that require medical attention and a chance at fighting a savage Grimm wreaking havoc in the forest, we know Yang likes mixing herself into danger. And as a character, I consider that a unique character trait, so I'll give it a rise. Now that we've got the basics to Yang's character, she's a thrill seeker wishing to experience wild and crazy adventures as a huntress. It matches her design. But what else is there to her? What matters can Yang bring to the story to make it more personal and deep? The writers added this along. Finding the whereabouts of her biological mother Raven. It is a believable character motive in my opinion that Yang has every right to feel this way. Children that grow up and question the whereabouts of their missing parents need to find closure. Smarose may have been awesome as she says, but it doesn't change the closure Yang needs in order to feel complete.
No one had seen her since.
Why did she leave you?
That question. Why? I didn't know the answer, but I was determined to find out. It was all I thought about. I would ask anybody I could what they knew about her. Today, I still want to know what happened to my mother and why she left me.
This is why I like to compare Yang to other members of Team RWBY. A girl, even with all of her well put together pieces, from her fighting, her personality, mature ways, still has a struggle of her own to deal with. It's good that she doesn't hold that vulnerability against her team or anyone else. She strives to protect them and even look out for Blake, a member who also deals with tough life experiences. The fact that Yang shows concern for others is a great positive, but as they say, too much of a good thing is often a bad thing, and so this happens. Oh boy, welp, this is something that probably shook a lot of people when they first saw it, and for good reason. Yang failed to protect her teammate, and to make matters worse, lost an arm for it. But guess what? We're still on the rise. This Yang train is still moving forward. Some of you may think, haven't we gotten past the rise? She's lost an arm. She's not the same anymore. This is where I like to use one of my favorite words when describing my take on characters. It's parts like these where a character is shown to be so bright and so inspiring, and now has to plunge headfirst into the darkness that is tragedy. And through those trials, they bloom into an amazing showcase of development, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or even physically. That word is character development. To put in layman's terms, using my own definition, character development is stages of occurring events that cause the character of interest to show differences in their original viewpoints or usual demeanor. Once a development occurs, the character most often improves drastically. Let's take an example from everybody's favorite television series, Avatar. The topic is the idea behind forgiveness. Spoiler warning, Katara confronting a firebender who was responsible for killing her and Sokka's mother. Aang, realizing that Katara was hellbent on enacting revenge, had this quote to give to her.
You do have a choice. Forgiveness.
That's the same as doing nothing.
No, it's not. It's easy to do nothing, but it's hard to forgive.
It's not just hard. It's impossible.
Katara believed forgiveness was impossible, but later on, after Katara decides to spare the firebender, she sits alone to reflect on her choice, and when she mentions this.
But I didn't forgive him. I'll never forgive him. But I am ready to forgive you.
For those who don't know, Zuko was also a firebender who has battled Katara in the past, putting her and her friends' lives at risk, but decided to forgive him for his actions. That's a prime example of character development. To be honest, I liked the turn of events this made for Yang, because I knew it would mold her into a stronger person. Now mind you, with the qualities of Yang's character that I like, it's important to note that the series that is ongoing with the quality of her character has to make changes in order to stay relatable to the audience. Nobody will become better if they remain on the exact same path of logic and reasoning from when they first started. The writers didn't decide to make this decision out of hatred of Yang's character, but to prepare her to be mentally stronger and physically stronger than she was before. But since we are very close to reaching the peak that is Yang, we have to first start ironing out her actions after the severed arm. Okay, it's a pretty stressful time for Yang, but it's to be expected. She lost a part of herself in a very gruesome way. The change of her usual lifestyle is going through some deep reflection, not to mention that the person who did it is still at large. But it's good to know that Tai is trying to keep Yang's spirits up. That's good parenting on his part. He's looking to the future while Yang is wrapped in the present situation. But after some time meditating and nightmares, Yang is accepting the fact that her arm is no longer there. This helps boost her appeal of being a mature character.
Everyone keeps talking about me getting back to normal, and I appreciate it, but this is normal now. It's just taking me a while to get used to it.
But then Tai drops this lesson bomb on her.
You're right. It's not coming back. But that doesn't have to stop you from becoming who you want to be. You're Yang Xiaolong, my sunny little dragon. You can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yang has a replacement arm. Sure, it's not made of flesh, but it can function perhaps better than any what normal arm could do. And what would you look at that? Yang decides to give the new arm a shot, and her training begins. This moment sparks another rise in Yang's character. Now that we have arrived to Volume 4, Chapter 9, things are looking up for Yang. She believes she is ready to go join Ruby on her adventure, but Papa Tai believes she's still lacking something.
You're close.
Oh, really?
You're still off balance.
What? No, I'm not. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised. I thought it would just be this huge weight, but it feels natural. They did a great job with this thing.
I wasn't talking about your actual balance.
It may have looked like tough love for a second there, but Tai impeached Yang with a valuable lesson that runs deep into character development. Balance. The art of keeping yourself in check with all facets of life, whether it be through relationships, fighting, and personal feelings. Yang relies on her semblance too much for her own good. Yang's straightforward nature often can't see the forest for the trees, and her personal feelings can't always get in the way of logic and understanding.
You remember lesson about balance?
Yeah.
A lesson not just karate only. Lesson for whole life. Whole life have a balance. Everything be better.
Tai even goes into detail of describing the traits Yang shares with Raven.
Raven was great in so many ways. Her strength, her ambition, her dedication to whatever cause she thought was worth fighting for. I'm proud of how much of her I see in you. But both act like the easiest way to tackle an obstacle is through it. That strength is all that matters in a fight. But if you just take a second look, then maybe you see there's a way around as well.
This is all of what Yang needed, a reality check that she shares traits with the same woman who left her. Good people of RWBY, we have reached our peak. Yang has taken the lessons of her father to heart. She's not going to become adamant on relying on her semblance. She's going to go at things with a level head, as he likes to put it. Yang is ready to start fresh, with a new arm and a new perspective on life. A sunflower is ready to bloom in bright potential. Or so I thought. I really wasn't expecting Yang to react so violent after, the whole Papa Tai lesson, but maybe that was just the spur of the moment back there. But alright, after Yang finishes beating some no-good bandits to locate Raven's hideout, the time has finally come for the moment of truth. It looked a little rocky back there for a second, but Yang is going to have that clue she needed. I can just imagine the list of questions she has for her. It's been a long time, and she's worked really hard to get to this moment.
Right. I'm sure this is all very overwhelming, but I must admit that you've proven yourself. So any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer. You can stay with us tonight. I'll even have the cooks whip up something for you.
That's not why I'm here.
What was that?
I'm not here for you. Ruby is somewhere in Mistral. She's with Crow and she's going to need my help.
That's not why I'm here? I'm sorry, I may have been taken off guard there for a second, but did Yang just dismiss the fact that she's facing the woman she's been dying to meet? To go find Ruby? Yang just said Ruby is currently with Crow. Why exactly would Yang need to be so worried when she's in good hands? Thankfully, Raven isn't entirely buying the idea that Yang came for Ruby's sake, so she continues to elaborate on her ideals that the world has gone corrupt, and so has Professor Ozpin.
It's very noble to want to help out your sister. But if she's with Crow, then she's already a lost cause.
What does that mean?
You don't want to get mixed up in all of that, Yang. Ozpin is not the man you think he is, and Crow is a fool for trusting him. I would know. I trusted him once too.
I don't care what you think.
I don't care what you think. The woman just said she knew about Ozpin. Yang knows this for a fact because Ty served on Stark for the big cheese and glasses. Shouldn't she care a little that her mom doesn't trust him? She'd rather be out in the wilderness with bandits surviving than to work under him. Has to be some truth somewhere. Yang's inability to see the bigger picture in all of this is problematic, especially since she was taught to be more balanced and to think with a level head from her father. Yang's character is definitely declining at her peak at this point. So after Raven refuses to be of help to Yang, these wannabe bandits pick another fight they clearly can't win, and Weiss' captivity is revealed to her. As a result, this does come as a shocker, but after a couple moments of fighting, Raven has had enough and tells Yang and Weiss to join her in her tent. She intends to reveal the truths about Ozpin.
If you're really going after your sister, then you need to know the truth.
How nice of her. It's like she's squeezing herself out of the truth and Yang logically searching for that information herself just to go locate Ruby. It seems at this point Raven has to unhatch her own mind and spoon-feed Yang and Weiss this important context. I get it. Raven is someone who leads a band of thieves. It seems shady, but her track record involving herself with Beacon in the past is still valid, and she still carries some weight.
Because Old Man Oz has a great and terrible secret. One that could spread fear across the world. One that he eventually entrusted to our team. And once I knew, there was no going back. I needed to know more. But with every new discovery I made, the more horrifying the world became. The creatures of Grimm have a master named Salem. She can't be stopped, she can't be reasoned with, and she will not rest until humanity crumbles at her feet. Otherwise, you'll end up just as blind as Crow. And your fool of a father.
I know at this point it must look like I'm nitpicking this scene. With what Yang has been through, the one person she desires to meet tells her some harsh truth. She decides to get angry. All of what Yang was taught doesn't seem to be of any merit in this conversation anymore. But since family is a touchy subject for Yang, I'm willing to look past this blunder. Raven can see all of this must be a lot for these two to sink in, so she insists on proving why Ozpin cannot be trusted with solid evidence. There you have it. She shows Yang her ability to turn into a bird, something that doesn't connect to her semblance and is purely based on magic, something that these two thought were inconceivable. Yang has enough proof to see that Raven isn't lying, so she has a choice now. She can stay with Raven and really piece together this whole charade behind Ozpin and Salem. Yang has an opportunity to restart with her mother, a real chance to know why she left. This is closure that has been wrapped up in Yang's head since the beginning. She could possibly crack down on this information and use it to her advantage to get some real answers. Surely, Yang will take this instead of going to see her sister. At least Weiss could be the one to tell them that she's staying behind.
All I care about is making sure my sister is safe.
Wow, Yang has forfeited the chance to rekindle a broken relationship and learn vast knowledge of the world outside of Beacon, also she could be at Ruby's side. Now I know some of you may think that Yang deciding to stick with Ruby was the better choice. But to be honest, for Yang to throw away this possible power position she could have grasped while away makes me believe she won't possess any powerful character moments that break her out of her usual spot amongst the team. What possibly can be left for Yang at this point to grow with? Ah yes, the Blake leaving fiasco, the abandonment issues ploy. Look, I'd love to go into detail about how Blake carries a significance to Yang's character, but that would take another video in its entirety to understand and break down. Besides, this video isn't about including Blake, it's about Yang's personal growth and development. As for now, this is where I feel Yang stands as a character between the rest of the RWBY team. You can see where the drastic changes happen, but for my fellow Yang fans, it's still hope for Yang just yet. Volume 8 seems to be hinting possible Yang scenarios that could rev up her standings, but until then, we will have to see. Volume 8 is approaching soon, so only time will tell. And no, I haven't forgot about what happened in Volume 6, the fight between Yang, Blake, and Adam. I never felt this moment truly developed anything for Yang. Adam was Blake's hill to get over, and Yang got caught in the crossfire. She did suffer from some PTSD and struggling to get over the fact that he was the one that took her arm, but it was a team effort that brought him down. It wasn't Yang single-handedly bringing him to his knees and admitting defeat. In fact, it led to a bizarre conclusion of this fight ending with Blake and Yang murdering Adam. And with this happening, I was expecting these characters to talk about it or at least bring it up in later volume in Volume 7, but it doesn't even seem to be of much bother to them or of anything of that nature. So I'm assuming that this didn't really even have a real big drastic effect even after all of what Adam has done to these characters. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this Yang analysis video. Do you feel like I left anything out? Do you feel like there's something I could have elaborated more on? As far as any plans for me, you know, after this whole Raven thing, I'm beginning to think people are getting the wrong impression of her. I do know that at the end of Volume 5 they did have an interaction together, but even then I felt like their relationship as mother and daughter didn't really go anywhere. And also due to the fact that how Volume 5 ended, there was never a last interaction that I felt was wholesome for these two characters. But she makes a lot of sense to me. That's for another time and another video if I actually cover on Raven. Thank you for tuning in to the video, and do please leave a comment and tell me what you think.